Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at the Gevi model GECME418E-U, also known in the Espresso circles as the Gevi 20. Picked it up on Amazon where they raised the price 30% right before they have a 30% off sale, which is typical. The Gevi 20 seems to be the most popular out of all the De'longhi EC885M knockoffs. This is a 1.35 kilowatt machine, 120 volts. And without even opening it up, we take a look at the box art on the side, which leaves some questions that I hope we can answer in this video. Number one is the pressure gauge that's not measured in PSI or bar. I'm not sure what that's about. And a 20 bar pump on an espresso machine is obviously marketing, but brewing an espresso at 20 bars would be absolutely terrible. Why would you market a feature that destroys coffee? Okay, enough of the pre-commentary, let's get it out of the box. At first glance, this machine is not tough on the eyes. I do have a weakness for stainless steel appliances, and it does have that narrow profile, ideal for small kitchens. Cup heater up top with that corrugated look, not bad. It's got that gauge up front, and we'll take a look at that in a bit. Nice milk frother with the handle. It doesn't look cheap, but I imagine it's probably not going to be insulated, and that's okay. Silk screening looks good. All the seams look even, doesn't seem to be assembled like crap. Small red float in the drip tray to let you know when the tray is filled. The tray slides into position just like this. And the tray can be removed for taller glasses, revealing another tray below. Very nice. There's an included water container. The top lid pivots open. It locks into the back of the machine, sliding down onto the tracks until it's flush. The machine can be filled without removing the container, just by opening the lid and filling it, which I prefer. Here's the portafilter, 51 millimeter. They're pretty much all the same with these type of machines, so no surprises here. Pressurized filter, 2 cup, again, no surprises here. What's surprising is they forgot to send me the 1 cup. There was only the 2 cup included, so yeah. There's a detent on the filter that lines up to the portafilter. As you'll see, when you line it up, it locks in. But if you turn it 180 degrees, there's a hole in the other side, so it falls right out. So you can only put it in at 90 degrees, and you would have thought there would have been 2 detents then, but there's not. So even at 90 degrees, it feels like when you knock it against a garbage can, it's going to fall out. It's like they started designing it and then walked away. It's worth noting, due to the weight of the machine or lack thereof, you do have to hold on to the machine when securing the portafilter, which goes against all the laws of stainless steel, because if you don't, it's just going to flop around. It's not a fault of the machine. It's just worth noting. This tool came with the machine and it's used for unclogging the filter and steamer nozzle. Notice the 2 fine points on it. We also have the standard cheap coffee machine spoon and tamper combo. We'll be using this as part of our demonstration. But first we're going to wash everything with soap and warm water. Yes, I realized in the video I'm not actually washing everything with soap and water. It's just a dramatic reenactment of the rinsing portion of everything after I washed it with soap and water. So don't watch it like you see in the video. Do it for real. You're about to drink from this thing. The manual for this coffee machine is more of a novel, which comes in at about 52 pages. This is not necessarily a bad thing. At first glance, we see all the parts the coffee machine is supposed to come with, including a single cup filter. We've already uncovered the unpacking and the washing of all the parts. Now we're going to prime the machine. There was in fact a rubber plug on the bottom of the water pitcher. It was located right over here, but I'd inadvertently removed it off camera. It was there to protect during shipping, and stuck out right over here as removed from packaging. You can't inadvertently install the portafilter without the filter because it doesn't make a seal, it just flops around in there. Inserting the filter now makes a tight seal where you could feel it as it seats all the way to make a proper seal. I'll be using filtered water from the fridge, filling into a pitcher, and pouring it directly into the container up to the max line. You'll see I'm using an extension cord for this video, but something that pulls this amount of current should be plugged directly into an outlet for safety. We check that the steam handle's pointed horizontally, and press the leftmost button to power it up. The flickering is in my camera. It's not actually part of the machine. It has a slow blink and a very quick heat up time. It's not bad at all. I've sped this up in my video. When all the lights come on, it's at temperature and ready to go. We'll use the milk frothing container for the flushing portion. So on the left we have power, followed by single cup, then double cup, and finally steam wand mode. We're going to use the double cup. So I pressed the double cup button, and initially I was just going to speed through this, but my first observation was you'll notice the vibration does make the cup vibrate to the side, so you have to make sure it stays centered. The other thing I noticed is looking at the gauge, it falls into the optimal pressure for an espresso, even though there's no beans in here. Not in the center of the gauge, but still in the optimal zone. So what's going on here? For the second flush, I want to have the camera pointed on the gauge for the duration. So we'll just empty this water, and we're going to repeat right now. And when you see right there, that's the low pressure pre-infusion, and it's within range. And now we're going to actually push the water through, and the gauge is rising into the correct pressures, even though there's no coffee grinds in here, and it's still climbing. And it's climbing all the way up to past 25% into the, almost right in the middle. It's almost registering a perfect amount of pressure for an espresso, even though there's no beans in here. What does this gauge do? So if the gauge registers perfect all the time, I mean, this is just water, right? What's the gauge for? We'll flush the steaming wand now using the same container. If I don't press this button and turn this dial, I'll end up getting hot water that I can use for tea or something like that. But what I'm going to do now is just let this run for a while just to flush out the system. And after 30 seconds or so, I'll just shut that valve back off in the horizontal position. I'll empty this out, and this flush is done. Onto our coffee dosing. The instruction manual calls for 14 grams for double, 7 for single. Since I don't have single, we're going with double. Again, here's our button for preset single and our button for preset double. Using my espresso measuring cup, I have a double here measured at 2 ounces and a single at 1 ounce. And I've installed the double filter into the portafilter. I'll point out that within the limits of the preset buttons, you could start and then stop whenever you want. You don't have to let it run the entire extent. Everything that I do in the video on this machine is obviously going to be measured for 2 cups. Since we're using the provided equipment for testing and the instructions say that a flat spoon is approximately equal to 7 grams, I want to test the accuracy of said spoon. And for all testing today, I'll be using Lavazza Espresso Italiano. But not this bag, that was just for dramatic effect. I'll use this open bag that doesn't make the same sound when I throw it on the counter. So I'll start grinding up a batch of beans on the hand grinder using the finest setting, which is fine enough for our purposes here today. Take out our precision scale, fire it up, put on our cup, tear the cup, and now I'm going to fill one uncompacted level spoon with the provided spoon and pour it into this cup. And I got 5.6 instead of 7. That's off by like 20%. So now we'll do it how people would generally do it, taking it from a bag and then shaking it off so it's relatively flat and then pouring it into the cup. We'll see what we get. And now we're like 25% over, so the spoon is not consistent. We're going to use the scale to get our 14. That's precise. Running water through these once on your first coffee of the day is a good idea to preheat these, or that metal will suck all the heat out of the water while it's brewing. Now bear with me here, I'm only using the tools provided except for the scale to get exactly 14 grams. And immediately I'm noticing that there's barely any room in this filter for the 14 grams. And as I'm trying to level everything out, I have to compact it mid-run because there is no headroom on this filter to fit any of these coffee grinds. It's like 1 or 2 millimeters of headroom between the bottom of the grinds as I tamper it and the top. There's no space at all. And remember, this is finely ground exactly 14.0 grams. Look at the configurations on my tamper for my other machine. Look how deep that sits in the filter compared to this. I mean, you couldn't even place it in there, let alone rotate it with this design because it would just spin. But let's go with what we got. We'll load them up, lock it in, using my measuring cup for measuring and inspection. It's worth noting that after a predetermined amount of time, the machine automatically shuts off, which is a nice feature. So I'll turn it back on and come back when it warms up. I've already pre-programmed my double for 2 ounces, so we'll hit the button and see what happens. Excuse the footage as this will be unedited to see the whole uninterrupted process. 2 immediate observations. Number 1, the pressure needle's at the same spot as when there were no coffee grinds, or just about. And number 2, wow, this thing is frothy. It looks like Guinness, not coffee. Look how much air is in this. That's incredible. I had to move it over to the side as it shifted out of the way. This portion of the footage is now sped up to 8 times the speed just so we could get all those air bubbles to the top. And right here, I stop at normal speed, and we could see that it comes to about 2 ounces, 60 milliliter, which is what I set it for with the water. Now I'll press the steam button over on the right, which will raise the boiler temperature for steam. We have to wait a little bit as it blinks, and eventually it'll let us know when it's ready. It's actually solid now, so it's ready. In fairness, I'll point out in this portion of the video, I'm still using 2% that I'm trying to use up, 100 milliliters. I turn the handle, and I heat up the milk, and we try to get some froth for a cappuccino. I turn the knob to close horizontally when I'm done, and I'll say that the frother worked out very well. I have no complaints about it. I press the steam button up top to shut off the steam, and turn the handle using some of that residual steam on a paper towel, and wipe off the frother to remove any of that dried on milk. Be careful doing this, you could burn yourself. It's time for the test. If you were hoping for a pretty picture right here, you came to the wrong place. There we go. This is as good as it gets, especially with 2%. Yeah, foam. It's a cloud. Just a cloud. And it didn't disappoint. It proved to be a cappuccino that you get from a $150 cappuccino machine. As far as preparation went, I think the portafilter and the filter is the weakest link in this whole chain, and it could be improved upon. That design is very forgiving for novices, but you're always going to end up with the best is going to be mediocre. The star of the show is actually the milk frother, which worked very well. Let's take a look at this puck. See what we got. Oh, that is a swampy, soupy mess we got there. Delicious. So I washed that out instead of knocking it out. And we'd be ready to go again, except if we just ran the steam and we shut it off right here, we need to bleed this off a bit to lower the temperature of the boiler, or else we'd get an error, and I'll replicate that in a little bit. We'll demonstrate now the process, how to configure how much water is used for the 1 and 2 cup presets using the 1 cup button. First we'll see what it's set for, then we'll do the manual method, and then we'll set up its value. First I want to see what it's set to, so we're going to add in this portafilter right here, and we're just going to press the button and see what the value is. And obviously, I'm doing this demonstration without coffee grinds. If you had coffee grinds in there, it would absorb the water after you did the settings, and your water level would change. When setting or checking the current level, you'd be doing so with the correct amount of coffee in the filter. I'll point out an annoyance here. You'll notice that the pump shut off, and see how long it takes the water currently in the system to drain into my measuring cup. It's still going as I'm talking. This itself is not an issue. The problem is how many seconds they allow after you stop it before you can save before the system resets. You actually have to save your new measurement while water is still pouring into the measuring cup. Why they couldn't allow you 10 seconds before you hit save is anybody's guess, but here we're looking at 40 milliliters. Now, of course, anywhere within that 40 milliliters, I could set exactly how much coffee I want by pressing the button. And then I say, that's enough. I go and I press the button again, and it stops. Or it stops the pump, and then whatever comes out, still draining, drains into the cup. And this allows you to manually set the size of your own single or double shot to your liking. Now we're going to go into the configuration mode to set up the 1 cup button to give us the exact amount of coffee we want in our container. Again, this would generally be done with a filter full of the correct amount of coffee, but this is just a demonstration that I'm doing. So with the machine ready to go, I'll push down the 1 and 2 cup button at the same time, holding them in until it beeps. At that point, they're blinking and they're in configuration mode. As we'll be setting up the 1 cup, I press the 1 cup button and the coffee will start brewing. Make sure this stays centered. And when I feel the volume is correct, I'll press the button again and stop it, setting the level, but it does not save the level. And this is the problem because the water's still draining and I have to hit this button to save it even before the water finishes draining, or it'll revert back to the last setting. They only give you 5 seconds to hit the save button, but it takes about 8 seconds for the water to drain. Why they couldn't give you 10 seconds to save is anybody's guess. And we see here that it stopped at 45, so I'm going to rerun it with the button. And again, because of that delay with the water, you're going to have to go back and forth and play with it a couple times until you have it dialed in. So 45 is what you were looking for. Stop it a couple milliliters shorter than last time. If at any time you want to factory default the entire machine, you could hold down these 3 buttons for a couple seconds till it beeps a couple times. Or if you just want to factory default 1 cup, hold down these 2 buttons. Or 2 cups, hold down these 2 buttons. I'll demonstrate on 1 cup by holding down these 2 buttons. And we can see now the 1 cup setting is factory defaulted. So resetting everything, measuring on the scale again, running it exactly as before. For consistency, to make sure that the first run was not an outlier. I'll take a moment though to demonstrate as I shut off the steam. If I immediately try and make coffee, we will get an error. We could see this alarm flashing, and that's because the boil is too hot. And all you need to do is blow off steam from the wand right here. It only takes a few seconds, and it only happens if you try and make a coffee immediately after steaming milk. It's not really a big deal. We can see that it went back to blue, and now it's cooled down sufficiently. Back to our cappuccino that I'm assembling right now. We'll give it a try, and it's consistent. It is just like the other one. And the puck looks less soggy, but this has been sitting for about 25 minutes while I've been filming, so chances are this was probably soggy, just like last time. Yeah, what came out was not a solid puck. Daily cleanup is separating the portafilter and filter and washing everything out. Remember that filter is dual walled, so you really want to wash it good with water to flush it out properly. You'll find coffee grinds under here with a wet paper towel. This area could be cleaned up. The tray can be wiped down or removed and washed out as necessary, and all the stainless surfaces can be wiped off to remove any coffee. And finally, the milk frother is cleaned to remove any milk residue. Every 100 cycles, these 2 lights will flash, letting you know the machine needs to be descaled. There is a descaling process that's annotated in the book. It's highly encouraged that it be followed. A nice looking machine that has a small footprint that'll fit in small kitchens. That makes okay cappuccinos for $150. I'm hoping the coffee machine never actually produced 20 bars, which would ruin coffee, and I'm going to assume the pressure gauge never really worked. Can we improve the quality and performance of this machine with a couple upgrades? That's for another video. As for this video, I hope you found it enjoyable, entertaining, and informative. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below, helps me out a lot when you do, and hit that subscribe button for more videos like this when they come out. When the next video comes out in the series, a link will be posted in the top right corner. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.